The UFC title contender tier list. In this video, I'm going to take every single fighter in the UFC that is in quote-unquote title contention, and I'm going to rank them within 4 categories, going off of who is 100% deserving, right? The fighters that obviously should get a title shot next. The fighters that are one fight away with one win, they will seal their title shot in most of the fans' eyes. The wild card, who are fighters that are going to get a title shot because they're kind of just in the right place at the right time. Maybe they don't fully deserve it, but it just makes sense because nobody else deserves it either. And, of course, entitled brat. That's going to be the fighters that are crying about title shots, and I think you guys have an idea of who that is. There's a few of them in the UFC that I want to bring into this video. And with that out of the way, boys, let's get banging right with this tier list, starting off with none other than Petr Yan. I'm going to put Petr Yan in the 100% deserving tier. Petr Yan, of course, he got 50-45 by Merab a couple years ago, but since then he's gone on a 3-fight win streak, beating up Song Yadong, dominating Davison Figueiredo, and most recently piecing up Marcus McGee and making it look easy. And although I do not think Petr Yan is capable of beating Merab, it's just a stylistic nightmare for him, that doesn't deter from the fact that he does deserve the title shot next. So yes, Petr Yan is 100% deserving of a title shot. Moving on to the next guy, Corey Sandhagen in the same division wildcard. Listen, Corey Sandhagen is only on a 1-fight win streak, but he's a wild card for a title shot, and he's getting a title shot because Merab has beat everybody else. So while technically on meritocracy, he doesn't deserve it, only being on a 1-fight win streak, the fact of the matter is that Merab has beat everybody else, and he hasn't fought Corey, and Corey's coming off a win. So it makes sense right now. If there was another fighter, obviously, that was on a win streak, then Corey Sandhagen would not be getting a title shot because he just lost to Umar last year, and since then has only beat an aging Figueiredo. But he hasn't fought Merab. I think he's 5-1 in his last 6, so yes, Corey Sandhagen is a wild card for a title shot, and that's why he's getting one. Moving on to the next fighter on this list, John Silva. I'm putting John Silva in the 1-fight away tier. He's ranked number 10 in the division, but if he goes out there and he beats Diego Lopez and destroys him like he's expected to do, you can bet your bottom dollar the UFC is going to be looking to book John Silva in a title fight as quick as they can. He's a big name. He's exciting. He's polarizing. A lot of people don't like him and think he's cringe because of his barking act and all that. So a lot of guys are going to want to see this guy either fight for a title and lose, or they want to see him win. We shall see. He's arguably the best fighting nerd, and yeah, I think just because of the hype behind him and how he's finishing everybody he fights, he has 5 fights in the UFC, 5 finishes. I can 100% see the UFC throwing him in a title fight. Let's get on to the next fighter on this list. We got Justin Gaethje. I'm going to throw into the entitled brat tier, you know? Justin Gaethje, he's obviously a fan favorite. He is in bangers every single time he fights. But as of recent, he's been a bit of a spoiled brat or entitled brat. He's been yapping about how if the UFC offers him Paddy, Pimblett, or Dan Hooker or any other fighter besides a title shot, that he's going to retire. Where Dana White responded saying, that is effing silly. If you're thinking about retiring, you probably should. And I couldn't agree more, man. Listen, Justin Gaethje, he feels entitled to a title shot because he answered the UFC's call for UFC 300, took the fight against Max Holloway, got absolutely smoked, comes back a year later, scheduled to fight Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker pulls out, not his fault, fair enough. He faces Rafael Fiziev on a week's notice, barely wins the fight, and then he's demanding a title fight, calling his fight with Max Holloway an exhibition. The definition of entitlement is Justin Gaethje. No, you've already had 2 undisputed title shots as well as an interim title shot. You don't get unlimited title shots just because you did a favor for the UFC. You're a grown man. You took the fight against Max. You got smoked to get in line. I think Justin Gaethje needs probably 2 more wins before he gets a title shot. So if he wants to threaten retirement over that, then let him go ahead. I mean, I'm not going to miss somebody who's crying over a title shot on a 1-fight win streak. Let's get on to the next fighter, Max Holloway, who recently defeated Dustin Poirier in his retirement fight. I think Max is 1 fight away, but the issue is that Ilia Topuria is the champion, and although Max would technically deserve a title shot if he were to beat any top 5 guy at lightweight right now, I do not think Topuria is interested in rematches whatsoever, so I do not think that Ilia Topuria would rematch type Max Holloway. Ilia Topuria strikes me as the kind of guy who's only motivated by a new challenge every single time, and he's already been there, done that. He slept Max, and I don't think he's going to want to take the fight again, but if we're talking about meritocracy, I think Max Holloway is 1 fight away from a title shot. I mean, he's only lost to the best of the best, man, and he just beat Dustin Poirier, who had 2 wins over. Pretty impressive, and his chin's a little bit better at lightweight, not draining himself to featherweight, so I think Max Holloway is 1 fight away from a title fight, but even if he wins his next fight, I do not think he's going to be able to fight Topuria, just because, like I said, Topuria is looking for a new challenge every single time. Let's get on to the next one, Shavkat Rakhmonov. Now, most people would expect me to put Shavkat in 1 fight away or 100% deserving. No, and no. This guy used to be one of my favorite fighters, but this guy, listen, I understand he has some hardships in his life recently, first of all. Respect to Shavkat. This is not a personal attack on him. This is strictly him as a fighter. As a fighter, this guy's been nothing but inactive, and he recently came out in an interview talking about how he doesn't want to just take on like intermediate fights. He wants to wait to fight for the title. Bro, you fight once a year and you have no wins against anybody in the top 5. You barely beat Ian Gary. He nearly choked you out and you were unable to finish him, right? Which Ian Gary's pretty good. But my point is, this guy fights once a year, kind of like Khamzat Chimaev. You cannot sit out for 11 to 14 months because you're injured all the time, come back and be like, yeah, I'm going to wait for a title shot. No, no, and no. The UFC should not reward this. I think it is entitled brat behavior. Get a win in the top 5. Show the UFC you can fight at least twice a year. And then we'll talk about a title shot, buddy. Because why would we want a title shot at welterweight for a guy who fights once a year? It's just not exciting, man. It's just one of the reasons I don't want Khamzat to win the belt. Because Khamzat Chimaev fights once a year. And I just can't get behind a guy who we're going to see fight once a year. Like that's just what it is. His history says so. So yes, I think Shavkat, with the way he's come about his talking about a title shot recently, has come off as a bit of a spoiled brat. Let's get on to Song Yadong. I think Song Yadong, given the landscape of the bantamweight division, is one win away from a title shot. Listen, if Song Yadong goes out there and beats any top 5 guys, if he were to face, let me think, Sean O'Malley, if he were to face Umar, if he were to face Mario Bautista, if he were to face anybody pretty much in the top 8 and win, I think Song Yadong would be granted a title shot. Just because of the landscape of the division. Marab's beating everybody. Song Yadong's right there. He's never fought for the belt. He's never fought Marab. So, and you already know the UFC's looking to break into that Chinese market. And Song Yadong would be the guy to bring him there. Although I don't think he beats Marab. But yes, Song Yadong is one fight away from a title shot, in my opinion. Let's get on to Arman Tsarukyan. Where do I want to put Arman? I want to put him in entitled brat, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna put Arman Tsarukyan in wild card. Because I do think they're going to end up doing Arman Tsarukyan versus Ilia Topuria next. And I'm putting him in wild card because you know what? I don't really think Arman deserves it. We're talking about a guy who hasn't fought since UFC 300. It's been 16 months, over 600 days since Arman Tsarukyan fought. And he barely beat Charles Oliveira. He beat him by a split decision, nearly getting submitted twice. Whereas Ilia Topuria just smoked Charles. So that win didn't age well for Arman. He sat out on the sideline since UFC 300. He was given a title shot. He pulls out a day before the fight, citing a back injury, but people speculate that he couldn't make weight. And this guy has done nothing but sit on social media and cry about a title shot. But I'm putting him in the wild card because I don't think he necessarily deserves it just off of his recent actions and his inactivity. But I think the UFC is probably going to do him versus Topuria. Even if Topuria says it's not going to happen, I can 100% see that happening. So Arman Tsarukyan in the wild card tier. You could kind of put him in the middle of wild card and titled brat because he's kind of both, if you know what I'm saying. Let's get on to Jailton Almeida, who I also think is one fight away from a title shot. If Jailton Almeida goes out there and submits or beats Volkov, he's going to get a title shot. Like, that's just what it is. Whether it's Ciryl Gane or Tom Aspinall, he hasn't fought either guy. And I think he's one fight away from a title shot. This guy, I know he gets, criticized for his Derek Lewis performance, but this guy's finished 20 of 21 of his opponents. I think Derek Lewis is his only decision win in his entire career. This guy dominates everybody. He submits everybody. He's like the Habib of a heavyweight. He's insanely skilled on the ground. So I think if he goes out there and he destroys Volkov, we're looking at Jailton Almeida versus Tom Aspinall next, because we already know Tom Aspinall is going to destroy Ciryl Gane. Let's get on to Alex Pereira. He's getting a title shot against Ankalaev, and you know what? He 100% deserves it. 5-0 in light heavyweight with 3 title defenses in 6 months before losing to Ankalaev. And he was finishing everybody, made Jamal Hill look silly, made Khalil Roundtree look silly, made Yuri Prohaska look silly, who is an amazing fighter, hasn't lost to anybody except for Pereira in the last 10 years. So Alex, given his activity, his domination over the light heavyweight division, of course he deserves his title shot, and he is getting it, although I do not think he's going to be able to beat Magomed Ankalaev in that rematch. Let's get on to Khamzat Chimaev. I'm going to put Khamzat in the wild card. A lot of people aren't going to like this, but man, let's keep it real, man. Khamzat Chimaev has only one win at middleweight against a middleweight fighter. Kamaru Usman's not a middleweight fighter. He's a welterweight. Khamzat Chimaev's only win, and arguably he drawed against Kamaru Usman. His only win in the entire middleweight division is against Robert Whittaker, which that hasn't aged well. Robert Whittaker has a bunch of losses in the middleweight division at this point. He's lost to Izzy twice. He's lost to Khamzat now. He's lost to Rainer de Ritter, right? Bobby Knuckles has lost a lot at this point. So although a submission is very impressive against Robert Whittaker, to say that Khamzat Chimaev is undeniable for a title shot at middleweight, I just can't agree with that. He's been inactive. He drew against Kamaru Usman. Sure, he submitted Robert Whittaker in the first round, but that's his only win in the middleweight division against an active middleweight fighter. That is his only win. And Robert Whittaker is not even in the top 5 anymore. I understand he was at the time, and the submission of a Robert Whittaker is extremely impressive, but a guy that deserves it technically more than him is Nasruddin Imavov. Let's keep it a buck, man. Nasruddin Imavov has top 10 wins, 2 of them. Brendan Allen at the time, and he beat Jared Cannonier, who was a top 10 fighter, and he knocked out Israel Adesanya in the second round. Nasruddin Imavov arguably deserves a title shot. Or not arguably, he is 100% deserving of a title shot right now. He shouldn't even have to fight Baraujo. I'm not even a big fan of Imavov, but I think he's earned his title shot. And he should face the winner of Khamzat Chimaev versus Dricus du Plessis. I do think that's the next fight. But I think, honestly, they're giving Khamzat the shot for the name value, and he's been promised a title shot at welterweight and then now at middleweight. He's been undefeated for a long time, but the thing that plagues Khamzat is injuries and just being inactive, whereas Imavov has been an active fighter. He's been beating top guys, 3 top 10 wins. I think he deserves it more than Khamzat Chimaev, but I'm excited to see Khamzat versus DDP. It is the fight of the year, in my opinion. Let's get on to the next fighter on this list, Paddy Pimblett. I'm going to put Paddy Pimblett in the entitled brat tier. Listen, I do not like the way Paddy Pimblett's been talking lately. He's ducking and dodging Arman Tsarukyan any chance he gets. He's talking about fighting Justin Gaethje or Dan Hooker. I don't know, man. Paddy Pimblett rubs me the wrong way. I might come off as a Paddy Pimblett hater, but he just doesn't fight anybody who's not 42 years old and on a 25-fight win streak. His last 3 opponents are on a combined 0-13 losing streak. And they're also all above the age of 38. The last time he fought a fighter that wasn't the age of 38, Jared Gordon, he lost the fight and got gifted a decision. And I don't know, man. Paddy Pimblett has no top 5 wins. His best win is Michael Chandler. And he's acting like he's part of the title conversation. Like, bro, Paddy should arguably be like 2 or 3 wins away from a title shot. But just because of his goofy ass hair and his name value, he has been in title talks. So, you know what? I'm not going to be that much of a hater. I'm going to throw him a wild card. I could see the UFC doing Paddy versus Ilia Topuria just because of how big of a fight it is. But he comes off as a little bit entitled as well. And I understand, you're always going to talk your way up to a title shot, but I'm going to put him and Orman in wild card because I could see both of them getting a title shot just off of name value and recognition and all that. You guys get what I'm saying. I came off strong with the Paddy hate. I do think that he needs to prove himself more, but maybe entitled brat was too far. Speaking of the next fighter that's an entitled brat, Kamaru Usman, dude. Kamaru Usman rubs me the wrong way. He got a win against Joaquin Buckley. Guys, that was his first win in 3.5 years. Kamaru Usman's last win before beating Joaquin Buckley was all the way back in December of 2021. He just got his first win in 3.5 years against Joaquin Buckley, right? And he's calling for a title shot against the winner of JDM versus Islam. No, no, and no. I don't care if you're a legend. I don't care if you had the second longest win streak in UFC history. At the end of the day, you lost twice to Leon Edwards, which aged terribly after what Sean Brady did to him. And bro, you're not anywhere near a title. You need to fight Bilal Muhammad. That's the fight to make. There's a big backstory. There's beef there. Fight Bilal Muhammad. Everybody wants to see it. Everybody wants to see them release the podcast where you got cooked on your own podcast, apparently, that episode. You're never going to do it because you know you got fried. But no, Kamaru Usman's an entitled brat. He's talking about, oh, I deserve to fight for the title. Who else has... At least he has the self-awareness to say it's strictly off of name value. He doesn't deserve it off of merit. That's 100% sure. But I don't know, man. Just after his win and like people are going to justify a Kamaru Usman title shot because of his reign at welterweight and all that. No, we're not giving out participation trophies. You had your rematch when you lost to Leon, and you got fried by Leon again in the second fight, and then you took a fight against Chimaev on short notice and arguably fought to a draw. Fair enough, but that was in a different division. Kamaru Usman needs at least, if not 2 more wins, at least 1 more win for a title shot. No title shots on guys that are 1-3 in their last 4. We're just not doing it anymore. Let's get on to another fighter, Joshua Van. I think Joshua Van 100% deserves a title shot. This guy just stepped in on 3 weeks' notice and beat the concrete #1 contender at flyweight, which is Brandon Royval. And not to mention, the number 2 and 3 contenders around, Brandon Royval and Brandon Moreno, both have 2 losses to the champion. And they're both, Royval's coming off a loss, and Moreno's coming off a win. But they both already fought Pantoja twice, right? Manel Kape pulls out every fight, so he doesn't deserve it. Tatsuro Taira is only on a 1-fight win streak. Joshua Van is on a 3 or 4 fight win streak. He's 8-1 in the UFC. He just beat the #1 contender on short notice. He 100% deserves to fight Pantoja next, and that's obviously what they're going to do next. And can you imagine if Joshua Van gets booked against Pantoja at the end of the year and takes John Jones's record for the youngest fighter to ever win a UFC championship? That would be insane. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about that. But yes, Joshua Van deserves the next flyweight shot, and he's going to get it, and I'm excited for that fight. Let's get on to the next fight. Movsar Evloev. Movsar as well. Movsar deserves a title shot. Let's be real, man. Movsar deserves a title shot. He's 9-0 in the UFC, and it's unfortunate that the UFC's got me to a point where I have to defend Movsar Evloev because I don't want to. I'm not a big fan of him for one reason or another. But if we're talking about Movsar versus Yair, dude, I'm going to add Yair to the entitled brat list. We'll get to him in a second. But dude, Movsar Evloev is 9-0 in the UFC. He's beaten 3 different top 10 opponents or ranked opponents. And he's looked good doing it, man. I understand he's not a finisher, which is why he gets a lot of hate. Haha, who wants to watch a decision machine in Movsar Evloev? But he's low-key, underratingly exciting. And yeah, I think he should be next for a title shot for Volkanovski. It's a perfect fight for Volkanovski to win. A wrestler or grappler that doesn't have a lot of power, that's undefeated. I think he's not going to be able to take Volk down, and Volk's just going to outstrike him for 5 rounds. Dude, do not give the title shot to Yair Rodriguez. Yair Rodriguez is one of the biggest crybabies I've ever come across in my entire time of watching the sport. And I've been watching the sport since 2004. This guy's nothing but entitled. He wants unlimited title shots. Bro, your last win was against Patricio Pitbull, who's a washed-up Bellator fighter. You're 1-2 in your last 3, with your only win coming against Pitbull, who was making his debut. You didn't even finish him. Before that, you got submitted by Brian Ortega. That didn't age well. Brian Ortega got cooked by Diego Lopez. And before that, you got washed up by Volkanovski, destroyed. And you want a rematch? First of all, a second fight against Yair does absolutely nothing for Volkanovski's legacy. So who would want to see that? And second of all, we're not going to reward a guy who's 1-2 in his last 3 and entitled. Get to the back of the queue, bro. Yair Rodriguez needs like 3 more wins before he's thinking about a title shot. Can't stand this guy. Nothing personal, but I just don't like entitled fighters like him and Gaethje who just, oh, poor me, I want a title shot, I deserve it. No, you don't. You're on a 1-fight win streak. Pipe down, little bro. You don't deserve jack shit. Let's get on to the next fighter on this list, Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane's in the wild card tier. Ciryl Gane really doesn't deserve to fight against Tom Aspinall. In fact, this will be Ciryl Gane's 4th title shot in his last 7 fights. 1 interim and 3 undisputed. The only reason that Ciryl Gane is getting a title shot is because they want a French champion so bad, the UFC, for whatever reason. The French privilege, BSD still in the rankings somehow. Imavov has earned his way, fair enough. But Ciryl Gane has had the most title shots out of any fighter recently. Just tons of French privilege. This guy doesn't take his career serious. And he's only getting a title shot against Tom Aspinall because he got a robbery win against Volkov. Volkov should have won that fight. But they're doing Aspinall versus Gane, which, you know what? I'm excited. I'm excited to see Ciryl Gane get his ass whooped. There's nothing I want to see more than Tom Aspinall land a 1-2 down the pipe and ground and pound Ciryl Gane's goofy-ass neck into the center of the octagon and finish him in the first round. It's going to be a beauty. But, yeah, Ciryl Gane's in the wild card. He's only getting a title shot because of kind of the circumstances at heavyweight. There's nobody that really clear-cut deserves it, so they're giving it to Gane. He is kind of an entitled brat, so you could put him in between the tiers. But for now, I'm going to put him in the wild card. Let's get on to the next fighter, Reinier de Ridder. I think Reinier de Ridder's 1 fight away. Reinier de Ridder just beat Robert Whittaker, but at this point, if you're skating by a decision against Robert Whittaker in 2025, who I think Robert Whittaker is past his prime, it's still a good win. But beating Robert Whittaker at this point in his career is not like a staple to a title shot like it used to be. Because Robert Whittaker has some losses now at middleweight now, right? He's only lost to the best, but he's losing at the end of the day. And Reinier de Ridder nearly got finished in that fight, and I think he needs 1 more. If Reinier de Ridder goes out there and he beats Israel Adesanya, or he beats Kyle Barajo, or he beats Imavov if they somehow fight, or he beats the loser of Khamzat versus DDP, I think he 100% deserves a title shot, because at that point, he would be 5-0 in the UFC, and he would have some great names on his resume, but I still think he's 1 fight away, and I'm excited to see it. Can you imagine RDR versus Dricus Duplessis for the official Looney Tunes Championship of the world? That would feed families. And next up, we got Kyle Barajo, who I also think is 1 fight away. I kind of want to put him in the entitled brat tier too, because this guy's been yapping a lot about how he deserves a title shot. No, you don't deserve a title shot. Who's Kyle Barajo beat? Jared Cannonier? That's it. And it's like, outside of Jared Cannonier, who's Kyle Barajo beat? He's been inactive. He hasn't fought nearly a year. He hasn't fought since August of 2024. And this guy's just talking all kind of smack about being the backup fighter for 319, about all... Dude, listen, first of all, I think Barajo loses to Imavov, Khamzat Chimaev, and DDP. I think they all 3 beat him. And this guy's a decision machine. He's done nothing but just talk on the sidelines and not fight. Why has this guy been sitting out for 11 months yapping about how he deserves to be the backup fighter and all this stuff? No, no, and no. You're 1 fight away. Yes, you're a good fighter, but you're a bit annoying, and you're a decision merchant. Get some finishes, little bro. Imavov's finishing Adesanya, whereas you're skating by a decision over 41-year-old Cannonier. Okay? Okay, let's get on to Sean Brady, who I also think is one fight away from a title shot. What he did to Leon Edwards cannot be understated of how extremely impressive that was. He destroyed Leon Edwards and dominated him from pillar to post and submitted Leon Edwards in the 4th round in front of his hometown. No matter how insecure Sean Brady is about his height, he 100% deserves a title shot with the win. And I think the perfect way to settle it for a title shot is Sean Brady versus Shavkat Rakhmonov for a #1 contenders fight. Winner fights for the title, and do Kamaru Usman versus Belal Muhammad, and the winner of that can maybe fight for a title after. These guys need to get more fights, get more wins. Stop the whole welterweight division. Let me add the last guy on the list. This is the last guy in the video, Ian Gary, entitled Brad. The whole welterweight division is yapping and crying about a title shot. Shavkat wants a title shot. Sean Brady wants a title shot. Respect to Sean Brady, though. He's willing to fight someone else. Ian Gary's called out for a title shot. Before Joaquin Buckley won, he wanted a title shot. Everybody wants a title shot. I understand it comes with a lot of hype and money. But what happens in the days of meritocracy? What happened to guys being undeniable? Tony Ferguson went on a 12-fight win streak, and he never got an undisputed title shot. It is what it is. It happens sometimes, man. But these guys on 1, 2, and 3-fight win streaks crying about a title shot, it's embarrassing. They're making the sport look bad. They're making the sport turn into boxing, where the best no longer fight the best. You just cry for a title shot, sit out, and you're rewarded. That's the sport we live in because the UFC allows it to happen. And the reason I put Ian Gary in the entitled Brat tier is because I don't know if you guys heard, but after losing to Shavkat Rakhmonov, coming off a loss, he said that he was disappointed that the UFC didn't call him to fight Belal Muhammad for the title and said they called Jack Della Maddalena. He was mad that he didn't get the call to fight for the title. You're coming off a loss. You do not get a title shot off a loss. Somebody tell these guys, did they forget how the sport works? In order to fight for the title, you need to win. And if a fighter gets a title shot coming off a loss, they did not deserve it. And the UFC needs to stop giving out title shots to these absolute crybabies. No more title shots for guys like Yair, Justin Gaethje, Shavkat sitting out and fighting once a year. Ian Gary coming off a loss, yapping about a title shot. Kamaru Usman, 1-3 in his last 4. Absolutely not. And the guys in the 100% deserving tier, they're the fighters that are going on win streaks. They're beating top-level fighters. They're not complaining, bitching and moaning, right? They're doing their thing. Joshua Van's fighting the #1 contender on 3 weeks' notice. Who else is doing that in the UFC? Nobody. So this is ultimately my ranking of all the UFC potential title contenders in this video. And let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you agree or disagree with any of these placements? And that's it, guys. I'm out. Peace.